Florida State and Clemson would like to leave the ACC for a more lucrative conference like the Big Ten. But ESPN just made that a little more difficult. We'll connect the dots for what comes next. Realignment, expansion, answers right here. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that free subscribe button down below, please, while you're checking us out here today. Would always appreciate that. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So ESPN may hinder Big Ten expansion in the future. We'll talk around it here a little bit. And there's not one but two Wisconsin lawsuits going on that could change football forever. Plus, we'll have our picks going into the weekend. You want to tune in for that for sure. You everydayers out there of Locked On Big Ten, you know that we feel that the Big Ten and the SEC will continue to expand into some sort of super conferences situation in the future, right? We're very clear about that. Still think that. And you know that schools like Florida State and Clemson, they'd be prime candidates for Big Ten realignment and expansion in the future, right? Right. Now, they're both presently embroiled in heated lawsuits against the ACC because they're locked into that grossly below market TV media rights deal through the ACC through the year 2036. Now, conferences like the Big Ten and the SEC, they're going to be hauling in hundreds of millions of dollars more from their current media rights deals and then get to negotiate another one, even more lucrative, if you will, before the ACC schools will even finish their lousy 20-year media rights deal that they're in now. They agreed to this back in 2016. Now, there's been a new development in all of this, and we've been keeping an eye on it. You and I, we've discussed this since last summer, that ESPN has always had the ability to do a look-in on this media rights deal. The date was they had to do it by February of 2025, and they could shorten it or put the hammer down and finish the deal, whatever they want to do. So ESPN could have opted out of the deal and ended the relationship. It would have shortened this horrible media rights deal to 2027, and I'm sure made the rest of the ACC schools just absolutely thrilled with that decision. Or they could stick it to the ACC schools. Not necessarily, that's not how they look at it, but as a business deal, they could lock in everything and the entire conference into this low-paying deal until 2036. And this week, that is exactly what ESPN did. After all, they're getting a great deal out of all this. They were paying a Power Four conference pennies on the dollar for carrying their games. And they said, yeah, let's make sure this is the full length of the deal. Let's extend it to 2036. But the question was, here's the thing they had to consider, even though it seems like a no-brainer financially for ESPN. Were they hurting the ACC product so much that maybe it would have benefited them to shorten the deal? Were the schools, are they better off leaving the ACC? We talk about this all the time. And would that hurt ESPN's product? These are the things they had to consider. What would ESPN really own if the upper tier schools left the ACC? What would be left? So now that ESPN has decided, you know what, we're agreed, we're going in for it. We're gonna lock this thing up. There's still some work to be done to appease the bigger brand schools like Florida State and Clemson to get them to drop their lawsuits against the ACC because they're trying to get out. They're trying to get out of this deal. They don't like it. They're watching their Big Ten and SEC brothers make tons of more money on much better deals just because the market jumped. And frankly, it's a better product, but they want a piece of that action. So are they going to drop their lawsuits against the ACC? Well, let's talk this through a little bit because it seems like when it was suggested, hey, let's come to some sort of agreement here. Let's appease Florida State and Clemson a little bit more. We'll get into that in just a second. Maybe we can all work together and live together under this deal. And it seems like the schools are listening. Any appeasement and stabilizing of the ACC would directly affect the Big Ten in that all this might slow down some future realignment and expansion of other conferences. If the ACC were to ever blow up, stability, they might not blow up, might stay as they are for now. Or they may use the Big Ten and the SEC for leverage in the short term and always be threatening to go there and leave the ACC if they don't get what they want. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. Now, what these bigger schools, Florida State in particular and Clemson, they want a bigger piece of the pie than the other schools in the conference. Florida State football thinks, for example, that their brand is worth more than Virginia football when it comes to TV ratings and national attention, all that. However, I will say their disastrous 2024 football season did not help their cause at all. They were banking on the popularity of the year before when they were rolling. They're probably right in their assumption over the long run. Florida State does have more value than some of these other schools, but so does Michigan and Ohio State over other schools in the Big Ten. It happens in every conference, and most conferences divide the pie pretty much equally with a few exceptions. We'll get into that. But while these schools, Clemson and Florida State, are sitting here chiming for a bigger piece of the pie and they want more money than the other schools, and again, usually most schools get the same amount. Now in the ACC, there's some schools that don't, right? SMU came in there to play for free. They just were desperate to find a home. They're not getting any piece of the pie. California, Stanford, this is like they got a toe in the water. They're not getting a big piece of the pie at all. So there are some exceptions from time to time. But some of the lesser schools in the ACC might balk at the idea of Florida State and Clemson getting bigger shares. And they might have to just deal with it. Why, you say? Well, they might have to take a close look at what happened to Washington State and Oregon State when the rest of the Pac-12 schools scurried on to the Big Ten and the Big 12. And now what's left? Nothing. Washington State and Oregon State are just in no man's land right now with no deal. So some of the schools in the ACC might be looking at this. All right, well, we don't want to pay Florida State or Clemson more money than us. But if they leave, what do we have? If we're just Virginia and Duke, Virginia Tech, no offense, but you can't put a TV ratings with those guys together. You can't do it. So if there's a mass, and by the way, if Florida State and Clemson leave, watch out for some other schools as well. North Carolina will bolt. We'll talk about that again later too. So moving forward, the ACC is trying to jumpstart this, and they're trying to jumpstart their value. In fact, they're looking into value adds. What are those? Well, that means they're going to double down on their efforts to create more marquee matchups for TV that would allow them to pay more money to Florida State and Clemson and make sure their upper echelon schools are always playing each other as best they can. And that strategy would also take advantage of the ACC's loose affiliation with Notre Dame and get the Irish to play more of the ACC's top teams on a regular basis. Notre Dame athletic director Pete Bavacqua is actually on board. He's open to this. So the Irish currently play 5 or 6 games a regular season per year against other ACC teams, and they play in the ACC in all their other sports as well. And then they do their little independent thing for the rest of fill out their football season. So if the ACC is going to create a higher value model for all of its members, they better include Miami. They better include North Carolina. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease here. And right now, Florida State and Clemson, they're the ones suing. They're the ones with skin in the game. They're the ones paying the money for these lawsuits right now. And they're trying to get out of the ACC or at least lower the exit fees. We're like $100 million. It's crazy. Should they decide to leave? Schools like Miami and North Carolina, they're taking a very hard, interested look at what is going on. But legally, they're doing a kind of a wait and see approach. They're not in with any of these lawsuits yet. But such a redistribution deal, if it's ever reached, Florida State and Clemson, they would be expected to drop their lawsuits. All right, they're going to make them happy. No more lawsuits. Got to end them. That's what the ACC is saying. And if that happens, that would quiet the expansion and realignment talk around the Big Ten and the SEC for now. But nothing's done yet. They haven't dotted the I's and crossed the T's on this plan. And I still think the key to this are the middle tier schools that want when Florida State and Clemson, they get their special treatment, they're going to want that special treatment too. That's where the real fight's going to be. I think the other schools on the outside, on the bottom, they're just kind of glad to be there. They don't want this thing to blow up, and they don't want their conference to disappear. But some of those good middle tier teams, they're going to be going, wait a minute. We're not giving Florida State more money than us. We're not giving Clemson more than us. I think that's where this thing could still blow up a little bit. I also think they're going to use leaving and threatening to go to the Big Ten and the SEC as leverage on this deal as well. So I don't think we're done by any stretch of imagination just because ESPN locked down this deal through 2036. And I do think North Carolina is the school to watch here. Because I think if they leave the ACC, there's going to be a bidding war between the Big Ten and the SEC to get them. They would love to get their respective footprints into the state of North Carolina. But if a settlement deal does get done with these ACC member schools, another item to watch here, keep in mind, ESPN just locked up this deal until 2036. Part of this settlement, according to some reports, at least one report that I read, Florida State and Clemson, they're going to ask the ACC to reduce the exit penalties after the year 2031. I don't want to go the whole distance to 2036. So 5 years before their media deal ends. That's because that's when the current deals of the Big Ten and the SEC and the Big 12 new media or TV media rights deals are going to be done. The next ones. And the ACC schools will be even further behind. And Clemson and Florida State, they want to keep the door open because if it's another big jump, they're going to be like, come on, man, we got to get out of here. I don't think the ACC is going to agree to that. They'd be stupid to agree with that. That's the thing to watch. That's the thing to watch here. So they haven't put this all together, but that's coming up next. And this whole thing is not over by any stretch of the imagination. We love your comments on this. This is always one of our favorite topics, of course. Love to have you hit me up comments on YouTube. Hey, be sure to subscribe, all right? And follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And if you don't mind, share, like, and follow. That helps us out. Always appreciate that very much. Hey, don't forget our website, Talk Big 10, the number 10, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there. We also have links if you want to buy merchandise from your favorite school right through there. Got a link right there too. You want to get some school spirit, get some school shirts, hats, t-shirts. It's all right there with all of our podcasts at talkbig10.com. All right, now I want to get into something else. Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Badgers. We talk about these lawsuits. The Wisconsin Badgers, they got two lawsuits going right now that could change football completely. Transfer portals, 5-year eligibility rules. All this is changing before our very eyes. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. Game time. Check this out. You want a ticket to an event, a sporting event, a non-sporting event? Get the tickets to Game Time. Get the app on your phone and your device, and you'll be ready to go. You want to attend to a Super Bowl, Big Ten basketball, March Madness, maybe the comedy show down around the corner from your house, or a concert. Get the tickets through Game Time and the Game Time app. They make it so easy to make those unforgettable moments where you go out with events with your friends and family, and that's what Game Time is all about. They make it easy to create those moments. They got the new feature, the Game Time Picks. Filters out the fluff. You only get the best deals on the great seats. You can focus on what matters, just being there. They got a great feature. You can see the view of the seat of the ticket you're about to buy. I like that. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day, and check out our website, talkbig10.com. Speaking of lawsuits, plenty going on around the Big Ten and Wisconsin. Got a couple of them I want to talk to you about. First one, Badgers cornerback Nazir Forquarian. He's suing the NCAA, and he is stating that his 5-year eligibility clock should not have started when he played 2 years at Division II Grand Valley State in Michigan. Now, he and his lawyers, they go on to say that the NCAA's denial of additional eligibility with the Badgers is really denying him a chance to profit from his name, image, and likeness. All right, that part maybe seems like a little stretch, but that's the argument they're making. So his lawyers are asking the courts to speed this up because he's got till February 7th to decide and if he's going to declare for the NFL draft or not. Now, his situation is interesting. When he was a high school senior from Mentor, Ohio, he signed with Grand Valley State, which is a Division II school in Michigan. But then they canceled their 2020 season due to COVID-19, right? That happened a lot around the country. Then his dad passed away the following summer in 2021. It caused him to miss a lot of weeks of training and got a slow ramp up to the season. Now, he overcame all that. And he was a Division II All-American, as a matter of fact. And at that point, he says, all right, let me try the next level. Transferred to Wisconsin in May of 2023 to play for the Badgers. Started 5 games that year and 12 games this past year. He's a pretty good player. So this past December, the NCAA Division I Board of Directors approved a blanket waiver granting 1 more year of eligibility to junior college transfers, but not to transfers from Division II or Division III schools. All right. Why? I don't know. I don't have that answer today. And I don't know why there's a distinction between junior college and Division II and Division III. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So any lawyers out there in the audience, if you want to take a shot at it, let me know. I would love to hear your comments and hear how you think this is going to turn out. Hit us up in the comments on YouTube. That'll be fun. Now, there is a second major lawsuit going on brought forth by another Wisconsin player just this month. Defensive back Xavier Lucas. He wants to transfer to Miami and play for the U, play for the Hurricanes, but Wisconsin's not letting him go. Why? Things are changing before our very eyes. So here's the deal. Wisconsin denied his request to enter the transfer portal after playing 1 season with the Badgers. Wisconsin says that Wisconsin and this player, Lucas, have agreed upon a 2-year revenue sharing contract that he signed in December, and they say that deal is binding. That's different from name, image, and likeness. And by the way, he signed a separate deal with Wisconsin's Name, Image, and Likeness Collective as well. But when a player wants to enter the transfer portal, when he makes the request, the NCAA bylaws state that the school must allow a player into the transfer portal within 2 days of a player's request to enter. Well, Wisconsin denied it because things have changed now with the revenue share. So this is going to be the first season that we're going to have revenue sharing with athletes. It's going to take place. Power 4 schools, they got to carve out an extra $20 million a year to share athletic revenues with past, present, and future athletes and players in the department. So schools signing players to financial distribution deals from the revenue sharing, this is brand new. It's never happened because it's taken effect here. Wisconsin says these revenue share deals are binding and they expect their player to honor this to the end of the contract. So what Wisconsin is saying is that a player who signs a multi-year deal must fulfill that deal, and it's just a standard business contract. You can't go taking off, going somewhere else now. Again, this is the revenue share part. This is different from name, image, and likeness. And they're basically Wisconsin saying, once you sign a revenue share deal, that we're going to pay you this percentage of our revenues because you're a football player, you're not going anywhere. If it's a multi-year deal, you're gonna honor that contract. So the option of transferring out away from a school through the transfer portal, now that's off the table, according to Wisconsin. So the House settlement that is forcing this new rule, this revenue share plan that all the schools are going to have to participate in, Still hasn't been approved yet. The final approval is scheduled for April 7th, and I'm 99% sure it's going to get approved. April 7th and implemented in August, and it will be here forever. Lucas's lawyers are saying that this agreement with Wisconsin is just a memorandum of understanding, but it cannot be finalized until April 7th when revenue sharing is officially a thing. Since it's not a thing yet, they don't think this contract sticks, and this kid wants to go to Miami, he can go. If we're after April 7th, okay, whatever. But we're not there yet, so we don't have a deal. I want to go to Miami. They think their client should be able to leave up until that date. Now, on a side note, Wisconsin also feels like this is all proof that Miami has been tampering with their player in this case as a whole other issue. This case has got everybody's attention here. I mean, even the Big Ten is weighing in on this, and they support Wisconsin, by the way, not the player. The conference says that as we enter this new era of revenue sharing, it is critical that agreed-to obligations be respected, honored, and enforced. They also said that the evidence of tampering and the contract interference by Miami is very troubling to the Big Ten. Stay tuned for that. Again, I'm not a lawyer on this deal, and I don't know how this case is going to get resolved. It's going to get resolved pretty quickly. We got some deadlines coming up. And with the lightning speed that college athletics is changing, I would love your opinions on that too. Whether you're a lawyer or not, love to hear from you. Hit us up with the comment section here on YouTube. But two big lawsuits going on with Wisconsin players, and a lot of things can pivot around the outcomes of those lawsuits. All right, from football to basketball, we got a huge basketball weekend as we wind down January and head into February, and then March Madness. It's coming. It's coming. I can feel it. All right, hoops. Let's start with the men's. Friday night tonight, Indiana at 10th ranked Purdue, 8 o'clock Eastern, national TV on Fox, 7 o'clock Pacific. Indiana is struggling. Purdue's looking pretty good. This is a heated rivalry in the state of Indiana. Check it out tonight, prime time. On to Saturday with Washington. This is men's now. At Minnesota. This is 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And Minnesota, with a few ranked wins lately against Michigan and Oregon. They also have a win against Iowa. They did just lose to Michigan State this week, but Minnesota's playing a lot better, particularly at the barn at home. Washington better watch out. 17th ranked Wisconsin is at Northwestern. That's a 2 o'clock Eastern game on FS1. Michigan is at Rutgers at 3:30 Eastern on Fox. And then 7th ranked Michigan State at USC. That's 4:30 game Eastern time, 1:30 Pacific on Peacock. Michigan State going for their 14th win in a row. They are on fire. On Sunday, we got Ohio State at 18th ranked Illinois. That's a 1 o'clock Eastern game on CBS. Remember, no NFL at 1 o'clock on CBS. We got Big Ten basketball. And Nebraska is at 16th ranked Oregon, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. That's on the Big Ten Network. Some interesting games on the women's slate. They're all on Sunday. Oregon at Michigan, Nebraska at Indiana. That's 12 noon Eastern on FS1. 4th ranked USC with Juju Watkins taking on Iowa at Iowa. That's a national game, 1:30 Eastern on Fox. That means that is 10:30. Did some math there. Pacific time for you USC fans. Wisconsin is at Purdue. Minnesota at number 1 and undefeated UCLA, 20-0. 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific on the Big Ten Network. This is Sunday now. 16th ranked Michigan State, the ladies at Northwestern, and Washington at 8th ranked Ohio State. That's at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific on the Big Ten Network. Big schedule of basketball. We're going to handpick a few of these games, put them in our pick segment. You know, we always pick, whether it's pigskin picks during football, picking some hoops now for basketball. That's all coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Time for our picks as we head into the weekend here on Locked On Big Ten. Let's do this. I'm going to put it on full screen. If you're audio only, we'll describe what's going on. Just got the grid of games. Picking a handful here. So I'm going to start off with this Indiana-Purdue game on Friday night tonight. And look, Indiana's really struggling, and this is at Mackey Arena. I would take the Purdue Boilermakers in this one handily. Now, the Washington-Minnesota game, I told you earlier, Minnesota is really heating up. I like the Gophers in this one against Washington. Both of these teams were near the bottom of the Big Ten. But with Minnesota's resurgence lately, they're getting out of the basement. Washington's still struggling. I like Minnesota in this one all day long. Michigan State going for its 14th straight win, 13-game winning streak at USC out on the West Coast. I still like the Spartans. Why go against the Spartans until this streak is over? Roll with it. And Ohio State is at Illinois. Illinois ranked. Illinois a little inconsistent. And Ohio State showing some signs of coming alive here. I'm going to call for the upset here and say Ohio State wins this game. Okay. Now let's take a look at a handful of women's games here over the weekend. USC at Iowa. Anytime Iowa plays a home basketball game, it's a big deal. But USC comes in as the number 4 team in the country. And they got their own Caitlin Clark this year. She's Juju Watkins, superstar. I like the USC Trojans in this one. Minnesota is at number 1 in undefeated UCLA. The Lady Bruins, number 1 in the country, 20-0. Did you know that Minnesota is 18-3? I think they'll give them a good game, but UCLA at home, I think the Bruins win this one. And then Washington is at Ohio State. Ohio State, 8th ranked team in the country. I like the Buckeyes to win that game in the women's basketball game. So there you have it. Those are my picks. 4 men's, 3 women's for this weekend around the Big Ten. Very excited about all the hoops. There's no NFL football because we're in between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. So watch some hoops. All right. Let me know what you think. And we'll be back on Monday's episode with my top 10 Big Ten observations from everything that took place. Hope you enjoyed it. And many ways for you to interact with this podcast, whether you're watching or not. Of course, we've got maybe later on the weekend, you want to shoot us a note on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. Also, our website, talkbig10.com, where all of our podcasts go. And you can get yourself some school merchandise there if you want it. Be sure to subscribe before you go, please. That always helps us out. And follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. And you get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Thanks for joining us. I never take our time together for granted. Have yourself a great weekend. Be right back at it on Monday. Can't wait to talk to you then. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. Have a nice weekend.